Okay, about that.
All right, we got that done. Well, welcome everyone. Today, I'm happy to be with you. I'm Yvonne Lembo, and I serve as the Director of Development with the Episcopal Church Foundation. And I'm here today with Pam Arey, who is from St. Philip's Episcopal Church in Annapolis, Maryland. And Pam recently participated in ECF's Pivot program, which emerged during the pandemic as a creative new way to make our congregational leadership initiative materials available in a new online learning platform. And it's just one of the exciting ways that ECF is helping to transform ministry. So Pam and I are going to talk today about the experience that she had with the Pivot program. And you're going to learn a little bit more about Pam and a little bit more about Pivot. So thank you so much, Pam, for spending this time today. And I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you.
So to start out with, Pam, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your Episcopal faith journey.
Okay, well, I am not a cradle Episcopalian, although I almost am. I became an Episcopalian in my early 20s after having been at a college for 4 years that had Episcopal services and where I sang in the choir. And also I had started to attend the Episcopal church in my local town in Connecticut when I was in high school because I was not happy at the local Roman Catholic church, which was how I was raised. And a friend from high school had invited me to come to the Episcopal church. And I felt comfortable there, and it was what I needed at the time. And that was how I was introduced to the Episcopal church. And so I've lived in many areas of the country, and including time while my husband was in the military. And so that was a different way of going to Episcopal services, where you had, I think, 45 minutes or an hour in the space, and then the next group came in to use that space, a different service. So that was kind of a quickie service every Sunday, but
to be efficient.
It was a very welcome service. And so since my early 20s, when I was received and all went well with that, lightning did not strike me dead. It was a wonderful, beautiful service. And so I've been an active Episcopalian since then, and participating in many types of renewal and faith and prayer types of involvement, as well as continuing all this time to sing in the choir.
Wow, what a journey. Thank you so much for telling us a little bit more about it. So tell us a little bit more, Pam, about how you came to be part of St. Philip's Episcopal Church.
Well, I live about 7 miles from St. Philip's, so it is not my local parish, but my late husband, Pat, was a deacon assigned to St. Philip's for 4 years. And following that service, or toward the end of his service, actually, was when he passed away. And so I started attending St. Philip's probably about a year or so before he passed away. And because I was remaining connected I still wasn't ready to leave our former church, our nearby congregation. And anyway, so I did, and I was just welcomed. I showed up the first day, that first Sunday, and was welcomed into the choir to start singing. I had just gone to find out when the rehearsals were, and they said, well, come sing with us. So, and the thing I discovered, I knew this already about St. Philip's, but is how welcoming it is. It's an overwhelmingly welcoming, loving, genuine place where people want you to be there, and they are able to express that really well. And I stayed after he passed away. They were so wonderful to me in the throes of my grief. And then just at every option, when I would say, oh, I think it's time to leave and go back to my much larger, much closer by church. And I said, no, I really like it here. You know, is that okay to decide to stay someplace because you just really like it? Anyway, I did. I'm glad that I have done that, and it's been a real blessing to me. So that's how I happened to become
Part of
part of the faithful. And now I finally accepted a call. I accepted 2 other calls to be elected to the vestry, but for a couple of different reasons, something intervened and I had to step away and not be elected. But this time I said yes to the vestry, and it all has all worked out. So I'm serving on the vestry as well as the choir and a few other things.
That's such a beautiful story of welcome. And I'm new to the Episcopal world, but one thing, even before coming to serve here, I always notice the Episcopal Church welcomes you signs. And hearing your story, it's so beautiful to hear the story behind the signs, that there's, at St. Philip's anyway, there's substance and there's genuine welcome that you've experienced there. So Pam, tell us a little bit more about how you found out about the Pivot program and why you decided to participate in it.
Oh, well, Pivot, it was interesting. It was introduced to the vestry by our rector, who, as I understand it, has participated in the in-person version of Pivot. Yes. That I don't know a whole lot about because I've been participating in the online version. And but he said that we had been invited to participate in this pilot project with Pivot, and you know, he was seeking interested people from the vestry or other people from the church who suggestions of who might participate. So I immediately said that I would like to. I liked its emphasis on the online. It talked about, I think part of the goal of it was to introduce more technology into the church and use of technology, which we have been doing at St. Philip's. And then that was escalated during COVID. But I have been very interested in expanding that. That's something important to me. Not that I'm that technologically literate, because I'm not particularly. Anyway, so I signed up, and that's how it just spoke to me. That's the only way that I can put it, the goals and so forth. But I had a lot of questions, a lot of questions, because St. Philip's is a historically African-American church. And it still remains that. I would say that maybe 10% of the active congregation are not African-American. So I was concerned. Oh, yeah. It concerned me a bit that I would be participating as not racially representing the church in that way. So that was a question that I had for the Pivot team before we really committed to it. But everything about it spoke to me. I have participated in a pilot project with another online testing of a coursework. And so I had mixed feelings about how that one went. I've been really overjoyed with how Pivot has gone. But I was intrigued, and you know, this is where we need to be spending at least some of our time expanding here.
Yes. So before I go to the next question, which you kind of covered a lot of these sort of Pivot related questions, but just for the sake of those that may not be familiar with the Pivot program, can you just describe in a nutshell, like, what exactly you did during the course of the program and online?
Oh, well, first, and I really liked this, there was easy to log in and be introduced to the screen, the online presence of Pivot. And so it first started with an online tutorial, which was easy to do with instructions. I will admit to going back through it again to make sure I had
got it right.
Because once I started participating, it all just fell into place. But at first, I really wanted to know more about what I was doing, because there were discussion boards and dashboards and how I would communicate with the team from our church and how I would communicate with the others participating in Pivot. And so all of that was so user-friendly once I started to do that. So life became, any hesitancy I had about technology was wiped away once I went through that tutorial, really. And you can go back through, if
you can always go back.
You can go back and find out what it was you missed and you needed for that next time. So yeah, it was very user-friendly, I felt, or it is very user-friendly.
Well, that's good news, you know, and I'll make sure that our course creators and platform gurus get that feedback if they haven't already heard that from you.
And so, one other thing, Yvonne, I just say the team is available from the beginning. And so, because before you even start with it all, you have the group, the leadership from the Pivot group has an online interview with you. So I could go back and ask them questions if anything came up. And having that ability throughout has been really outstanding.
So like you're online, but you're not alone. You're not just out there.
Absolutely.
That's great. You mentioned that there were others who are also engaged in Pivot from St. Philip's, and then I guess there were others from other communities. And through the chat board, is that how you described it, you can all contribute things? Can you talk to each other, or how does that work?
So each presentation, they were generally about every 2 weeks, occasionally every week, through the process where there was a learning that we had with visiting lecturers or visiting information. And there were questions afterward that we would reflect upon, and other readings and things that we would reflect upon. So, for example, I would have reflections that I would share with my team on the sharing board. Very easy to use. It's enclosed. It's just for the group, sort of groups. And then often we were supposed to come up with a synthesis of what the opinions or the thoughts of our team were. And then I am the team leader. And so I would post those on behalf of the team. And then other people from the other churches can comment about that if they want to, or you can press a little thing to do a heart that if you didn't have a lot, I support what you say. But also we all had our screen identities. This was not our personal email account or anything like that. Our Pivot account that we could click on. So if I wanted to ask a question of someone that didn't have to do with what they were responding about, I could just, click their name and ask a question and get a response. Or I could send them something, a larger response to what they had posted.
And they could do the same. They could reach out to you if they had something they wanted to discuss or something.
Yes. And in this other testing of an online course that I did about 6 years ago, that interaction was not there as much, and it was difficult to access. This was easy to access and participate in.
That's great. So it's not just you engaging with the content on your computer, but you can engage with others who are also engaging with the content.
Right.
Awesome. Good. You may have covered some of this already, but I'll ask anyway. What were some of the highlights of the Pivot program, things that you felt really worked really well? You've kind of talked about some of those, but if there's any others that come to mind.
I reviewed my notes because I'm a copious note taker. So during all of this process, I took a lot of notes, and then later went back actually with the material and copied and pasted it into my own computer.
Yeah.
So that I would have things that I kept. What I liked about it is there were a variety of ways to share that we received information. There were videos that some churches or some presenters were showing us videos and then explaining about them, or they showed us photographs of something, or graphs and some other technological things to explain some concepts. And then there were also things that some churches, not those who were participating with us now, but some other churches were doing to promote themselves or put themselves out in the community, where they had assembled these fascinating graphic representations of their churches. Then there were also articles to read. And so all of that really, every time I thought, oh, this is great, this is a good way for me to learn, then there would be another way that that it would be.
Yeah, multiple channels.
Many. And then one of the other, actually our team ended up being just only 2 when all was said and done. The other person really especially liked our Zoom breakout groups, which sometimes just with our team, and then other times with people, all the different people from Pivot, where you'd be with 3 or 4 people sharing information and just talking and reflecting.
Yes.
And so, yeah, there were just so many ways to interact and learn. So,
beautiful, beautiful. How do you think Pivot could help other people like you or other faith communities like yours?
one of the things, especially with COVID, really literally shutting the doors of our churches for a long time, 18 months, 2 years, depending wherever. And our church is still not, there is a whole congregation out there that is still not physically coming back to church. At my church, we even stopped the live streaming of the service. Well, that lasted for 2 weeks because there was such an outcry. So if we ever didn't believe that we needed an online presence for our church and our worship and some of our activities, we sure know it now after we're still in COVID.
Yeah, it's the new normal. Yeah.
It is. Our vestry is still meeting with Zoom, but a few things, at least at my church, are getting back to being in person. But reaching people in different ways now, with there being so much technology in the world, that is how people are used to interacting. Even I won't share the details of what was involved with me sending you a picture of myself, because Yvonne, I don't do that level of technology. I email and checking things out online or about my speed. So, but I think not being afraid, at least what Pivot did for me was reconnect me with people in a really engaging way that has been so absent these last couple of years with COVID. And then I realized how, that's just, I know this because of COVID. Well, how is it for the people who are much younger than I am? I'm in my early 70s. Well, how is it for people who are communicating all the time with their devices, their technology devices? They need to communicate. I need to communicate with them.
Yes.
And it's been exciting to do that.
Yes.
And it's also been exciting to be able to be with people in different time zones, because all of these churches, we're all over the United States, and the person from my team right now is off on the West Coast. So we're still able to communicate this way. And what a gift that is,
Yes.
It really just is to be able to, we can't physically reach out and touch people,
Yes.
but we really can be connected.
Yes.
And yeah. And
Beautiful.
It's not a false way. It's very meaningful, I find. So.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. How do you think your life would be different if you had decided not to participate in Pivot?
I'd still be waiting for somebody with more technical expertise to be, well, I haven't begun the cry, but to begin the cry at our church, coming from somebody other than the rector to say, we really need to move beyond where we are. We're doing great with where we are in our technology. We need to move beyond, because people are missing so much. And for example, the in-person Bible study and so forth that have not been taking place. We need to figure out, we need to have that in place, and also figure out how to get people who aren't involved technologically to connect that way.
To
and
feel
maybe
comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, to do that. Because it is a new world out there. And then not people who are just staying away because of illness or vulnerabilities that way because of COVID, but just the people who we want to reach who we don't know. That even though my little life doesn't involve so much technologically, the rest of the world really does. And I appreciate that so much more because of this, because of Pivot. So I can see how a kind of a regular person like myself can be transformed, really, and get excited about being involved. And it doesn't, church has so much been about being connected in person, and that kind of agape closeness.
Yes.
And celebrating the Eucharist together in person. And wow, that is important. So that can be so important, but not always possible.
Yes.
And so, yeah, so let's address it.
Yes. Thank you so much, Pam. Is there anything else you'd like to share as we're kind of bringing this to a close?
Well, a couple of things. I really want to reiterate how wonderful it has been that the team leadership, the Pivot leadership, has been so available and approachable and helpful. I had a time with something that I was supposed to be able to access when we were accessing data, population data and so forth, that I just wasn't able to do it. And I was spending a couple of hours every day trying to do this. And we set up a Zoom meeting, and she really walked me through it and found out what my stumbling block was. And that was so helpful. And the other part is even though people think they don't have time maybe to participate in something online, this way the convenience, certainly not a Zoom meeting where we have to be here at a particular time, but the convenience of being able to learn on your own schedule and do part of it at one time and come back and finish the rest or review it. Wow, that has been just really terrific.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Pam, thank you so much for taking this time to visit with us, to share your pivot experience, a little about your life, a little about St. Philip's. And in closing, I just want to say to everyone who's tuning in that we invite you to join ECF in transforming ministries. And this is one example of the exciting ways that ECF is engaged in this work. And God is at work in so many wonderful ways, like Pivot, like with Pam and St. Philip's, creating a vital, inclusive, and sustainable Episcopal church that creates steadfast followers of Jesus. And your gift to the Episcopal Church Foundation supports God's work through programs like Pivot and other resources, innovation, and expertise to strengthen faith communities, to equip leaders, and to transform ministry for a vibrant future. Thank you for tuning in today, and thank you for your faithful partnership and prayerful support of the Episcopal Church Foundation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pam.